To get right into it, welcome to another episode of the Thrive and Survive Research Hub. As usual, I'm here with Alex. Alex, good morning.
Morning, morning, morning. How's it going?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
No, I'm feeling fantastic. Very excited for this episode. And I'm very
Yeah.
excited that you are going to be leading it today. So, yeah, let's
Yeah.
get on.
Cool. So, over the past few weeks, I've been thinking about obviously the tools for life or the tools for success.
Hmm.
And I know generally we speak on quite a lot of topics, but we don't hone on exactly the main theme that obviously we put the foundation of our topics on, and the main thing being philosophy. So my first question for you today is philosophy as a tool. How do you use philosophy as a tool to improve your life?
Yeah, this is a great subject to discuss. For me, I feel like philosophy. So I'll put it to you like this. The quality, I heard a guy say, Ray Dalio said this. Ray Dalio, for those of you who don't know who he is the founder of Bridgewater Associates, which is one of the biggest private hedge funds in America. This guy manages billions, trillions under assets under management. And he said, the quality of your life is driven by the quality of your decisions, which resonated with me a lot when I heard that. And how I link that to philosophy is just much like religion, it's an operating manual to make better decisions in your life. And I actually have two books that I would like to highlight as far as philosophy is concerned. And the philosophy that I'm most familiar with is a philosophy called Stoicism, which, was founded in ancient Greece and essentially adopted by Romans. And it's lived on till today. I mean, it's obviously we don't have any active schools, but there's great works of literature that survived from that era. And the first one that I want to talk about is a book called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The reason why I like this book so much is because Marcus Aurelius was known as the last of the five good emperors of Rome. There was this like 80-year period of prosperity that Rome had, where they had five consecutive emperors that were known as being fair, just leaders who focused on the interests of the people. And the thing about Marcus Aurelius was he was a practicing Stoic in the sense of he actively tried to live by this philosophy of Stoicism. And the book Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is a very unique piece of literature because it's his personal diary that he was writing to himself. It's his own journal. So it was never written to be published. It was more just him writing his thoughts down as an emperor. And you see how he tries to navigate the challenges of life and the thoughts that he has, and how he's constantly trying to, you can imagine as being an emperor, you have so many people around you who don't tell you the truth. They don't tell you if you're
Yeah.
actually being good or doing a good job. And
Yeah.
he was his
Yeah.
own harshest critic, where he was constantly saying, be humble, don't be judgmental of others for their weaknesses and flaws, forgive them. And a fun fact is Nelson Mandela, when he was in Robben Island, he read Meditations as a form of um, almost as a form of keeping his sanity and developing himself into the person that he was when he emerged out of that prison, which I think is it speaks to obviously, it's not just about the book. He obviously went on his own personal journey, but it speaks to the impact that something like this can have on a person. For me personally, um, I know I'm speaking a lot on this, but this is a big subject for me. um, Philosophy has helped me to become the man that I am today because it's helped to shape the way I think about things. A great example is when I was on the farm 2 years ago, there was a fire, like a big veld fire. And I used that fire, which is normally a very stressful, and it was stressful experience, but I used it as a form of training where I said, this is an opportunity for me to become a better man through this challenge, through this this experience. And I feel like it made me a stronger person because I had that perspective. I didn't look at it as, oh, Jesus, this is a disaster. Why is this happening to me? And that's one of the things that Stoicism uses as a philosophy, is it constantly says like everything, every hardship, every challenge is an opportunity for you to forge your character and your spirit. So yeah, the first book that I'll talk about is Meditations. The second book, which was recommended to me by a good friend who was very passionate about Stoicism, is called A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy by William B. Irvine. And this book is fantastic because it's written by a modern guy who is trying to be a Stoic philosopher. So he adapts everything, all the ancient literature, to the unique challenges of today. And it addresses, like, the book is fantastic because it addresses how to live with Stoic values in your life. So how do you navigate luxury? How do you navigate fame? How do you navigate relationships, etc., etc., etc.? And if I had to finish this long speech with one phrase about Stoicism, it's being harsh on yourself and forgiving of others. Constantly admonishing yourself, saying, you can be better, you can do better, and forgiving others for their shortcomings and their flaws. And so philosophy, for anyone who's never read anything about philosophy, I just wanted to say, like, philosophy will expand your consciousness. It will literally shape the way you view the world and give you an insight into the way things work, the way the universe works, and things will just make so much more sense. So that's my take on philosophy. And I know you've got a lot to say about it as well. So tell me, how has philosophy had an impact on your life?
Yeah. Wow. And I like your ending there when you stated that philosophy will expand your consciousness.
Mm,
And I'll quote you as well what you said earlier on. You know, philosophy is almost like an operating manual of how to go through certain things, certain experiences in life. And for me, I think your philosophy is your way of living,
mm,
and every individual has the responsibility to create your own philosophy. Yes, we have other philosophies that we tap into. We have philosophies we're born into. So, like, I think religion itself is a philosophy, and within religion, there's Catholics, there's Anglicans.
yeah,
Those are sub-philosophies of overarching philosophy, right? But at the end of the day, I think the main core philosophy of the world is just how to live, being a good person, and being hard on yourself.
yeah,
So, in my personal experience, obviously, I have been around the world. And obviously, as you travel, you realize that your philosophy isn't the only philosophy,
yeah,
you know? So, I've tried my best to not run away or deny my philosophy that I grew up in, but add to it. And today I've created my own life manual, that consists of philosophy outside of my religion,
yeah,
going as far as like into Zen Buddhism, going into Stoicism, going to the teachings of Confucius
yes,
and even Hinduism, right? And then bringing it together. And then obviously creating something for myself that I use and share with my loved ones. So yeah, for me, it's just an operating manual, like you said. And I think your personal life experience expands as you know more and you really get to live in the present moment because you're more aware of things, and therefore also more in control of how you behave with yourself and with others. So yeah, that's just my
I have a
my
question.
my philosophy there. But yeah, go ahead.
If you were going to highlight some principles which have really served you from your philosophy, which ones would you highlight?
So those are quite easy, eh?
Yeah.
For me, mainly it's about how you treat people.
Okay.
So the one that I live strongly by is, you know, what you do to others, you do to yourself twice.
Oh, yeah, that's a
That's
good.
the first. So how you treat people definitely impacts the energy you get out and the energy you're gonna get back. You
Mm,
know. Second one that I live strongly by is, he who toils with pain shall eat with pleasure. It's about working hard.
yeah.
That's from the Bible. That's about working hard, and that's about understanding that, success is a byproduct of working hard and suffering and disappointment and failure. It
Yeah.
cannot exist without those. And those are two things that live in one ecosystem and coexist. So essentially, most of life is suffering for success,
Yeah.
but going through the suffering in the most optimistic and positive way possible.
That's a great way
So,
to put it.
so
That's a
yeah, and I mean, even like I was watching a very interesting documentary yesterday where the one guy was speaking about success, and he was like, and he's a billionaire. And I don't want to mention his name because I don't want to misquote him, but he was saying that across his life journey of becoming more wealthy, he's just acquired a higher level of suffering,
yeah.
right? He says
Yeah.
everyone's suffering at every level
Yeah.
because the more you have, the harder it is to keep, and the more
Yep.
responsibility you have. So it's called success because you have a lot. The
Yeah.
success comes with the suffering of having more responsibilities and just having to be more alert with your surroundings. If you have nothing, you can sleep all day.
Yeah,
You can
exactly.
walk around. You don't have to worry about character or development. But if you have something, and the more you get, the more you need to be conscious of those, and the more you need to abide by the universal principles and
Yeah.
have a philosophy that allows for you to operate in the most optimal way that allows for you to get the energy you want back from the universe.
You know, that thing you said at the end is very interesting. It reminds me of a quote that I heard from, I think it was from Alex Hormozy. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to misquote him, but this is a good quote, so I'm sure he won't mind if it's attributed to him anyways.
Yeah.
But the guy said, if you look at any successful person, there's a good chance you wouldn't want to be them because you don't know what it takes to be them.
Yeah.
You don't know the price of that success.
100%.
And it's like, for example, I've spoken about a series called Yellowstone before, which is a
Yeah.
fantastic series. And the series is about this mega rancher, intergenerational mega rancher. And every episode is just him fixing problems. Every episode.
Sure.
And as a guy my dad has a farm, he's on the farm right now. Guess what? He's fixing shit. That's
Mm.
literally his whole day. At night,
Yeah.
he gets to have a braai and he enjoys himself, but the whole day, it's just a pain in the ass fixing stuff. And
Wow.
that is it. And you know this as well in
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be the CEO. But when the CEO, what does the CEO do every day? Put out fires. Because all the easy stuff, they have other people to do that, you know? So
Well said.
everyone complains about the CEO getting paid the most, but they don't realize it's his head that's on the chopping block for everything. Everything.
100%. 100%.
So
100%. And like you said, like you said earlier on, right? He does the most, takes the most risk, and that's why you need philosophy in life because the more you have, the more fires you have to put out. And at the end of the day, it's not intelligence that allows for you to do that properly. It's wisdom, which is
well,
acquired from the philosophy that you choose to follow.
well said.
So yeah, to move on to the next one, and this is linked to obviously philosophy as a tool, but I want to ask you on the topic of divine intervention.
Yeah,
You know, um, what do you think of divine intervention, and do you believe that it has impacted your life in any way?
absolutely. Absolutely. I've had intimate experiences with divine intervention in my life. And if I had to describe how divine intervention works in my perspective, it works in the manner of like the story of the Chinese farmer and his son, which you and I have mentioned before, but I think it's worth sharing in this podcast. So basically, I'm going to paraphrase the story, by the way. There's a Chinese farmer and a son. And the one day, the son goes to the father and he says, Father, I found 100 horses out on the hill. This is amazing. We're going to become horse farmers. And the father says to the son, Son, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. It's too soon to tell. So the son captures the horses, puts them all in a pasture, and A couple of weeks go by and he's very pleased with himself because he's now selling horses. He doesn't have to irrigate the crops. Then the one day, one of the horses kicks him and he breaks his leg. And he says to the father, Father, this is a disaster. We're ruined. You're too old to work on the farm. I'm now paralyzed. What are we going to do? And the father says to the son, Son, it's just too soon to tell. Then, a couple of days later, this massive army comes on the hill. It's now the Chinese army going to conscript all military-aged men. The general comes to the farm and he says, Give me your son. We have to go fight. And the father says, My son can't fight. His leg's broken. Then that whole army goes to war. They all get slaughtered. And the son survives. So the point of that story is when something happens, you just don't know what's going to come of it. For me, if I can share a couple of things. When this is going to laugh, people are going to laugh, but you know, when you're living it, it feels very significant. When I was in high school, I was dating a girl who I liked very much, and it was pretty much all I cared about at that young age. And most of the guys are the same. But someone very close to me was going through a tough time, and I remember praying to God, and I was like, God, you know, please help this person. And I know that sometimes you have to sacrifice for good things to happen. So I was I was praying and I said, you know, the most important thing to me right now in my life is my girlfriend. If you must take this from me to take care of this person, do so. And literally, you're going to laugh when I say this, but it's the truth. As I said, amen, I got a text from my girlfriend at the time. And that text was the beginning of us breaking up.
Jeez.
Truth. This is a true thing. And I literally, like, as I said, amen, and my phone vibrated, I was like, what the flip?
Yeah.
That was the first
Wow.
time. Second time, I remember I was in second year university and it was finals. And me and my girlfriend at the time and all of my friends were going to go to Plett. And out of everybody in my friend group, I was the only one who had to do a second op. You know, I had a smart friend group. What am I going to say? You know, but I had to do the second op. And at the time, I felt so sorry for myself because everybody had passed and I didn't, and I had to go do second op. And I remember my girlfriend at the time, I was lamenting the fact that I couldn't go to Plett at the same time as everyone. I had to go 3 days later. And she said something to me that I believe God was speaking to me at that time. She said, the only one who can get you out of the situation is you. I'm sorry, it is what it is. She said it very compassionately, but in the moment, I was like, what? How can you say that to me? You don't blah, 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 blah. Then when I was sitting in my flat by myself, I was like, this is such a good lesson for me to take for the rest of my life. It's like the only person that can get you out of a situation is yourself. And so, yeah, I have this belief sometimes God speaks to you through people. Sometimes God speaks to you through moments. Sometimes God sends a challenge your way to give you an opportunity to level up and become the man that you were meant to be. You know, talking about the felt fire that we had when I was discussing it for philosophy, that felt fire was an experience that changed my whole perspective on life because it was an opportunity for me to step up and become more of a leader in my family and, you know, to switch from this perspective of being the boy to like now being a man, you know. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and you know what, there's so many millions of little things that have happened that gently guided me in the direction that I
Yeah.
wanted for me, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Divine intervention. And what about you?
So, I mean, I think you covered it quite well, right? I think divine intervention is obviously when things happen to you that uh you almost can't say no to, you know? And like, to link the two topics together regarding philosophy as a tool and divine intervention, I believe that the type of divine intervention that you experience is also directly correlated to your behavior at the time based on
Yeah.
your operating manual being your philosophy. So like I've had divine intervention in times where I was being extremely reckless,
Yes.
you know, with friends growing up, doing naughty stuff. I've experienced divine intervention in that.
Yes.
And then I've also experienced divine intervention in good times, you know, or when I'm about to do something good. So I think divine intervention is almost like the universe's way of speaking to you. Like you said, sometimes through people, sometimes through incidences, sometimes through something happening to you. And like one I'll use is I once had quite a bad accident, a scooter accident on my face.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Obviously it took a long time to heal. But for me, the divine intervention in that situation, I'm not gonna completely explain the whole story, but obviously there was a period where I flew off the scooter and I remembered, obviously this is all happening in a 2, 3 second period. But my time in the air, obviously flying in the air, felt like 20 minutes. I was very conscious of everything that was happening. And obviously on my way to land, because I was going into another car, it was just the window, right? And it was either like hit the side panel of the car or into the window. And you can't choose which like way you're flying, right?
No.
But anyways, I literally went from flying like this to like flying like this into the window. And yes, my face got bashed and stuff like that. But like I literally saw death and life in that 2 second period, which felt like 20 minutes. And for me, the divine intervention there allowed for me to appreciate life in a very different way. I came out of that a lot more positive.
Yeah.
I'm always grateful for life. I go through setbacks and challenges with a smile. Not that it doesn't affect me, it does,
Yeah.
but it doesn't affect me more than I appreciate life. And therefore, I'm always in this positive balance of energy and frequency. So,
That's
yeah,
that's amazing.
I love your breakdown on divine intervention. Then I guess it's something that just can't be explained.
It's also like your sensitivity for noticing these things is also important because
Yeah,
it can happen and you just don't even pay attention to it, and then you don't receive the message that you're meant to receive, you
yeah.
know.
So well said. Cool. On to the next question, Alex. I want to ask you about the fine line between confidence and arrogance.
Mm.
Obviously, I think a lot of us, when we tend to do well, become more confident, right?
Sure.
And the challenge then becomes, where do you draw the line? How do you draw the line if you're feeling so good about yourself and confident about yourself? Because the thing with confidence is that it's an energy you don't want to suppress
Yeah.
because it comes from the inside. I think arrogance is conscious.
Yes.
Arrogance doesn't come from the inside, it comes from the mind, but
Sure.
confidence comes from the inside. So, how do you know the fine line? What do you do in your life to balance that out? Because you want to harness confidence and suppress arrogance, but
Well,
doing
yeah, yeah,
balance is not.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is a good question. I think it's understanding the definition of confidence, and understanding that like confidence is just giving yourself permission to be yourself, in my opinion, your true self, authenticity. You know, arrogance is the ego. Arrogance is performative. Arrogance is performative in a way because you're like overextending in a sense. Um, we spoke about it in the last episode when we spoke about humility, but I just keep going back to this thing of like confident enough to try, humble enough to listen. That for me is like a great, you know, bracket to operate with,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
arrogance doesn't listen. Arrogance is, I know better. You can't teach me anything. Look, I'm great already. Like, what do you want to tell me?
yeah,
That's arrogance.
yeah,
Confidence
yeah,
is, I know what I know, but I know what I don't know. And a lot, I know that I don't know a lot. Like that. And again, it's like confidence is quiet. Confidence is calm. Confidence is steady. Arrogance is loud. Arrogance is excited. Arrogance is all over the place. You know, they're like polar opposites. Arrogance is very insecure. Arrogance is very insecure. Arrogance is saying,
Yeah.
I must be better than you. Confidence is saying, I'm not comparing myself to you. I'm comparing
Yeah.
myself to me. That's
100%.
that's confidence. And
Love it.
you know, like another thing, if you want to, you know, it's confidence is almost like one of those things where confidence is like happiness. You know, you don't always know when you are it, but you know what it looks like, you know? For me, the confident people I know are always super complimentary. They're always trying to make other people feel better.
Mm.
Arrogant people are not like that. Arrogant people want you to feel bad. But
Well done. Well said.
yeah, confident people are like, no, you are great. Like you're
Yeah.
awesome because they're
100%.
they're okay with themselves. They feel no like qualms about making you look good. You know,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
that's my
Wow.
take on it. And you?
I like what you said. Confident people uplift others, right? Because I
Mm,
mean, I think confidence is the reflection of yourself. And that energy is then transferred into other people. And arrogance is also a reflection of self because generally arrogant people make other people feel small, insecure, bad,
yeah,
etc. So I think that's a very good way to identify the difference between confidence and arrogance, you know? The first question is to ask yourself, how do I make people feel around me?
yeah,
How do people perceive me? Not to say you must care what people think, but it is responsible to have that thought process and to understand how you relate to others in social environments.
yes,
Because at the end of the day, life is about how you impact others.
yeah,
So for me, I mean, managing the two, like honing and harnessing my confidence, but at the same time suppressing any sort of arrogance, is done based on how people respond to me.
mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I avoid conflict and things like that, you know, but in high conflict situations, I'm able to assess that most accurately. And then based on the assessment of how the other person is reacting, I view myself. In times where I'm confident, it's very easy to notice, and where there's no conflict, the people around me are feeling charged.
Yes, yeah,
So I always use my measure of those two based on the people around me. And yes, sometimes you can be confident and the person that you're dealing with is argumentative,
mm,
right? But in your assessment, you would have identified that if you are really being the true definition of confident and understanding, and you've given them time to listen, this is a personality problem of the person that you're dealing with.
right,
And therefore, there's nothing you can do about it. Even moving into the realm of being arrogant won't solve anything. So sometimes the master wins by retreating. And when you retreat, generally those people come forth and come forward.
and confident
So
being able to retreat. By the way,
yeah,
you know,
it's a
like
skill, right?
yeah, you know, something that you do really well, is listen. You're a great listener, and that speaks to your confidence
Yeah,
because when you're confident, you don't feel the need to speak. You're not trying to prove anything.
yeah,
You add, you add something when there is something to be said, which is a
100%,
very great
100%.
trait.
And same goes back to you, right? And I think that's why we get along so well.
Thank you.
Confident people get along with other confident people.
That's true.
Arrogant people get along with other arrogant people. A
Yeah,
confident person who comes into environment with an arrogant person can hang with an arrogant person
yeah,
only for a period of time.
yep,
An arrogant person who comes into an environment with a confident person can hang with the person, but for a very sustained period of time, you just continually trying to improve yourself to this confident person.
yeah,
You don't feel the need to retreat, you don't feel the need to reflect. So I think that's the difference between the two. And it's just very important to always know that because it's very easy to sit on the one side without being conscious of it.
well said.
Cool. On to the next one. Dealing with setbacks. Do you have a formula for dealing with setbacks? Because we've obviously touched on the fact that success does not come without setbacks and challenges. It's a byproduct of it.
Yeah.
And in order to enjoy success, you need to have a formula for dealing with setbacks. So my question to you is, how do you deal with setbacks? What's your formula to dealing with setbacks?
This is obviously something that you have to work at, right? It's not natural. I don't know. I don't want to put a limitation on people, but I would say the natural response to a setback is to view it poorly, because you didn't get what you want. It's not the outcome. Something that's helped me a lot is something that I've taken from Tony Robbins in his coaching, where he always says, life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. And that mental switch is a big one because it turns a setback into an opportunity where you say, okay, how can I use this to make me better? So I'll give you a great example of this mentality that something that I have to keep going back to, right? I mean, because obviously you reinforce principles. If you don't do that, you will find yourself veering into the territory of not thinking about things correctly. But I care more about understanding why something happened now than the thing that happens itself. So for example, if I'm doing something and it goes well, if I don't know why it went well, I'm not too happy about that because I want to have a repeatable formula. I want to understand, did I get lucky or was I actually doing things correctly? When something goes wrong, I try to focus less on, oh, something went bad. And I just want to understand, okay, cool. Is this a one-off thing? Was this outside of my control? Was this someone else not doing something that they should have done? So also another cool principle to link into this in terms of setbacks is this within my circle of influence? Or is this within my circle of concern? And I'm borrowing this concept from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Proactive people focus on things that are within their circle of influence, controllables. It's not to say they don't care about things outside of their circle of influence. That would be your circle of concern. And what you want is to expand your circle of influence to match the things that you care about, or to shrink your circle of concern to your circle of influence. So if something goes wrong, if it was outside of your control, don't give it energy because what are you supposed to do about that? But if there's something that you can do about it, you should be excited because that means you're going to learn a lesson. So that's my approach to setbacks. What about
So
you?
well said. So yeah, I mean, I think I resonate 100% with you on setbacks, right? Like, firstly, to always acknowledge that setbacks are part of success. They coexist. And some setbacks are divine intervention. So some setbacks
Right.
were written before your existence. It was written, there's a term that they say, this was written in the stars. There's some things that were written in the stars before your existence, right? And you know those things when they happen, both good and bad.
Yep.
So I think the first thing to understand is to acknowledge that and to also realize that the universe guides you. Where you are is where you are supposed to be.
Right.
And your responsibility is to reap the seed of equivalent benefit from that situation and take forth with you the lessons from that to move forward. And I think if you don't have that positive mindset in dealing with that setback, then it takes you even more back because you don't focus on the lesson.
Right.
You are blaming the situation and you're looking for people to blame. And in doing so, do not realize the lesson you were supposed to pick up. And it's all a matter of energy, right? You only have, every day you have a certain battery level, you have full battery charge, and your body can only function optimally, within a given period every day. So where you use your battery is extremely important in terms of what you get out from every day. What you get out from every day becomes what you get out from every week, and then every month, and then every year, and then what you get out of life. So I think it's about just being aware of your battery and where you're using your energy in your setbacks, because that will tell you whether you're taking the right thing out of the situation or not.
And
So yeah, that's just
yeah,
my way of looking at it.
I'll add to that. Like you spoke about blame there. You know, blame is useless. Blame is useless. Blaming yourself, blaming someone else, or blaming circumstances is useless. It's
Yeah,
way more practical to ask the question of whose responsibility was this?
yeah, yeah,
Responsibility, ability to respond.
yeah,
This is a big thing because if it was your responsibility, cool. Now you can change it so that it doesn't have to happen again. If it wasn't your responsibility, forget about it because it's not in your control, you know? And that's a big thing. A lot of people talk about, it's not my fault. It's not this person's fault. Forget about fault. Fault is
mm,
useless. No, who cares about fault? Children talk
yeah,
about fault. Adults talk about
100%.
responsibility. And
Yeah,
that's a great approach to setbacks. Like, and here's another cool thing that I've learned the hard way is even if it was someone else's responsibility, you should view that responsibility as an opportunity. Because
yeah,
if they didn't do it, maybe you can. And now you get expanded influence and authority. So, like, it's very often we have this frustration because other people are not doing their jobs and things like that. Okay, cool. How's about you expand your responsibility to include theirs? And now,
yeah,
the next time a promotion comes up, people are going to say, well, this oak's already doing it. Now we should
yeah,
just pay him, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Making
yeah,
yourself, you've spoken about key man risk a lot of the
yeah,
time, and that's the
100%.
concept. Like people
Yeah,
will say, okay, we're hiring you for this job. And the average person will say, okay, I'm going to do everything within that scope and nothing more because I'm not paid
yeah,
for it. But then they
yeah,
say, I want to get paid more. It's like, okay, cool. If you want to get paid more, add more value than what you're currently being paid for so
yeah,
that salary will eventually match that value.
yeah,
That's the way it
yeah,
works. Not,
yeah,
oh, you get paid more and then you start doing more. It's like, no, you do more first, then you get paid.
100%,
You know,
100%, 100%, 100%. And I like what you said there early on about responsibility, the ability to respond. And
yeah,
I think going back to the subject or the topic, setbacks,
yes,
if you are aware of your responsibilities, ability to respond, you're then able to take accountability when things go right or wrong. And I think the secret there is accountability, because accountability brings forth this perspective of taking the responsibility that is required to take out the correct lesson out of the setback.
well said.
So I really like the way that you summed it up and you broke it down and you brought the definitions in. And I don't think there's any simpler way to explain, how to look at setbacks as compared to what you've shared now. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool. So I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Alex,
Good
thank you for your time. You answered those like a master.
stuff.
So I appreciate that. I made quite a few notes and yeah, hope
It's
you have a good day and thank
the
you to everyone
coffee.
listening.
It's the coffee. This is why.
I'm Sue. I'm Sue.
Coming soon,
Um,
guys. Travis about merch. Shameless plug.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, Alex. And yeah, I look forward to many, many more episodes.
Well said. All right, guys. Until we meet again. Thank you very much.
Cheers.